Neo-Soul consumers, African American millennials, smartphone usage and purchase behavior. There are about 45 million African Americans living in the U.S. today. 84% of those 25 years or older have at least a high school diploma. The median household income for African Americans is more than $35,000 per year compared to almost $52,000 nationally. 27% are poor compared to a national average of 14.5%, and 19% of those 25 years or older have at least a bachelor's degree. 10% of African American households have an annual income of $100,000 or more. 35% of African American households have an annual income of $50,000 or more. 54% of African American households reside in urban or suburban areas compared to a national average of 41%, and 71% of African Americans are voting age. African Americans represent about 14% of the U.S. population today, but by the year 2060, they will represent almost 18% of the U.S. population, with an estimated 75 million people. African Americans have a combined buying power of $1.2 trillion. This ranks 16th compared to the gross domestic product of the world's richest nations. If African Americans were a nation, they would rank just behind Mexico and ahead of Indonesia, the Netherlands, Turkey, Saudi Arabia, and Switzerland. Right now, 55% of African Americans live in the South. 54% of the adult African American population is female. 53% of the African American population is under the age of 35, and 52% of employed African Americans are female. Almost 40% of African Americans live in the 12 metropolitan areas shown here, with New York, Atlanta, Chicago, and Washington, D.C. having the largest African American populations. It's noteworthy that almost 9% of African American citizens live in New York City alone. In addition, Washington, D.C., Atlanta, Dallas, and Houston lead the largest southern cities in regard to African American population. Taken together, almost 13% of African Americans live in these four cities. With regard to wealthy African Americans with incomes over $100,000 per year, 24% reside in Washington, D.C., 19% live in San Francisco, and 16% of wealthy African Americans live in New York and Boston, respectively. This graphic shows that with an average life expectancy of 74 years and a median age of 32 years, the typical African American consumer has about 42 years of effective buying power left in his or her lifetime. In comparison, the typical Hispanic consumer has almost 57 years, and a typical Asian American consumer has about 52 years of effective buying power left. This shows that African Americans represent about a third of a more than $3 trillion multi-ethnic consumer market that will change business as usual in the U.S. African American millennials, or neo-souls, will be significant contributors to that change. Neo-souls represent 40% of the African American population, roughly 18 million people between the ages of 18 and 44. 32% of them are married, while 50% of them have never been married. Their households are 127% more likely to include a single parent, usually a woman, and 16% of neo-soul households include at least one child under the age of 18. 85% of neo-souls live in urban metropolitan areas. 81% trust products advertised by black media. 82% of total purchases in neo-soul households are major name brands. 73% of whites and 67% of Hispanics say neo-souls shape American culture. 40% of neo-soul women say they are trendsetters, and 18% of neo-soul income is spent on hair and beauty products. The typical neo-soul is a 32-year-old brand loyal, employed, unmarried woman who lives in a southern city in a household with two other people and a household income of about $35,000. She is mobile and socially connected via her smartphone, a deal seeker who likes discounts and new trends and sees herself as a trendsetter, as do those around her. She uses her smartphone to seek health and employment information, get entertainment, to make purchases, and to tell others online about stores she went to or about products and services she recently bought. Black businesses and corporate responsibility are important purchase factors for her. This unique neo-soul consumer profile is centered around 5 consumer imperatives: mobility, health, trendsetting, luxury, and culture. In the US, 70% of African Americans own a smartphone, compared to 71% of Hispanics and 61% of whites. This is an indication that African Americans have embraced mobile technology wholeheartedly. In fact, 12% of African Americans designate themselves as smartphone dependent, compared to 13% of Hispanics and 4% of whites. In addition, 19% of African Americans report having few online options other than their smartphones, and 21% report that they do not have home broadband service. So taken together, 52% of African Americans depend on their smartphones for their connection to the internet, either voluntarily or out of necessity. African Americans of every age use their devices to send texts, search the internet, make phone calls, and send emails. Younger neo-souls are significantly more likely to use their smartphones to listen to music or watch videos. Overall, neo-souls are 30% more likely to download music and 10% more likely to download video on their smartphones than the general public. Overall, neo-souls are twice as likely to spend more than 3 hours on social networking during an average day. 80% of neo-soul women will tell their friends about a product if they like it. Neo-souls are 62% more likely to feel that mobile ads are useful, and 53% agree that TV ads provided useful product information. The average neo-soul spends about 7 hours 21 minutes a month using Instagram, compared to a national average of 4 hours and 37 minutes. Neo-souls spend another 6 hours 15 minutes per month using Facebook, compared to a national average of about 6 hours and 48 minutes. In addition, neo-souls spend 2 hours 24 minutes per month using Twitter versus a national average of about 3 hours 10 minutes. In general, neo-souls' favorite apps are the ones that allow them to connect with others, share opinions, and floss or show off. Neo-souls are 86% more likely to be interested in receiving ads on their smartphones. This fact again speaks to the popularity of mobile technology among African Americans. Businesses that want to connect with neo-souls need to consider doing so via mobile ads. When it comes to social media and smartphone ads in general, 62% of neo-souls prefer ads that will provide them free content. 43% are more likely to look at ads if they have an interesting video. And 37% prefer ads that offer custom information based on their location. Interactive features and multimedia elements in ads are not as popular with neo-souls. Over 60% of neo-souls use their smartphones to research shopping information using a search engine, to visit a retail site or app, or to read product reviews. More than 50% look up pricing or visit a shopping site or app, and surprisingly, 38% of them looked for a coupon to download. This shows that the smartphone is an essential shopping tool for neo-souls. Neo-souls are receptive and heavily influenced by all forms of advertising and the opinions of significant others. Overall, neo-souls are 72% more likely to publish a blog or note personal product or web content preferences through likes, links, or following a brand. 39% more likely to purchase products that they have seen advertised on a smartphone. They are 33% more likely to use ads to help them purchase children's products. 31% more likely to notice ads in movie theater lobbies, and 25% more likely to have children make a significant impact on brands they choose. In addition, neo-souls are 28% more likely to purchase products advertised on a social media site than the national average. Social media ads are another effective means to attract neo-souls while they're using their smartphones. Neo-souls also use computers to go online to support their smartphone usage. Males are 19% more likely to monitor their investments or stocks online than the general population. 31% of neo-souls watch consumer-generated video on computers, with 48% of them preferring to do so on YouTube. 64% of neo-souls have learned about a new product or developed a new skill by watching a YouTube video on a computer, and neo-soul females are 18% more likely to download a coupon on their computers. Neo-souls use their computers frequently to seek deals and shop also. They are 65% more likely to listen to a local radio station online compared to the general market. They're 40% more likely to use a daily deal app like Groupon, and 46% more likely to shop for apparel online using their computers. Excluding gasoline purchases and doctor's visits, neo-souls make an average of 154 shopping trips per year, spending $39 per shopping trip and $5,954 per household annually. While neo-souls make 8 more shopping trips per year, they spend $8 less per trip and $872 less annually on retail shopping per household. It's estimated that roughly 55% of neo-soul consumers either seek deals online, offline, and on their smartphones, seek deals through traditional media like radio, or always seek the best deal even though they prefer offers from their favorite stores. Neo-souls make fewer shopping trips to grocery stores, mass merchandisers, and warehouse clubs, about the same number of shopping trips to supercenters and drugstores, and more shopping trips to dollar stores and convenience or gas station stores than the national annual average. Neo-soul spending habits vary significantly by income. Neo-souls with household incomes above $75,000 a year spend about 34% of their earnings on housing, 12% on food, 17% on transportation, and 15% on personal insurance and pensions. Neo-souls with household incomes below $30,000 per year spend 46% of their earnings on housing, 23% on food, 12% on transportation, and only 2% on personal insurance and pensions. So lower income neo-soul households spend significantly larger proportions of their incomes on housing, 46% versus 34%, and food, 23% versus 12%, than high income neo-soul households. They also spend less on transportation, 12% versus 17%, and personal insurance and pensions, 2% versus 15%. Regardless of income, neo-soul households are over 9 times more likely to purchase ethnic hair and beauty aids, 85% more likely to purchase feminine hygiene products, 74% more likely to purchase fresheners and deodorizers, 64% more likely to purchase personal soap and bath needs, 53% more likely to purchase women's fragrances, and 42% more likely to purchase family planning products. So clearly, personal hygiene, particularly smelling good, is very important to neo-souls. 92% of neo-souls agree that it is important to live a healthy lifestyle. 79% of neo-soul women agree that pursuing good health is important. And the number of neo-souls with incomes over $50,000 who shop at health food stores has increased by 40% in the past 3 years. These data show the high value neo-souls place on managing their personal health. When asked their health goals, 90% of neo-souls reported that they wanted to lose or maintain weight. 33% want a better work-life balance, 28% want to overcome an existing disease, and 47% of neo-souls want to have less stress in their lives. In addition to feeling good, neo-souls like to look good. They are very fashion conscious. They're twice as likely to report that they like to make a fashion statement than the general population. As a consequence, they tend to be pioneer shoppers. Neo-souls are 77% more likely to go out of their way to find new stores to shop at. 55% more likely to be the first among their friends to shop at a new store. 46% more likely to travel up to an hour or more to shop at their favorite stores, and 40% more likely to spend a lot of money on personal toiletries and cosmetics. This emphasis on trend setting is closely aligned with thoughtful, planned shopping and a focus on luxury. 80% of neo-soul women agree that being conscious of purchasing decisions is important. 79% agree that it is important to trust a brand when purchasing its products. They are 63% more likely to purchase a luxury vehicle in the next year than the general market. 45% more likely to shop at Bloomingdale's, and 40% more likely to purchase movie tickets online. Luxury and prestige are cornerstone principles of the neo-soul consumer profile. 44% of neo-souls say owning a foreign car is much more prestigious than owning an American car. Neo-souls are 39% more likely to try to keep abreast of changes in styles and fashions. 38% more likely to believe that advertising generally presents a true picture. 36% more likely to buy products from companies that sell to consumers through distributors or sales reps, and 32% more likely to look for organic or natural items when shopping for health and beauty products. The neo-soul focus on trend setting and luxury is largely driven by their receptivity to advertising. Neo-souls watch more traditional television, read more magazines, and listen to more radio than the average American. The average neo-soul spends about 3.6 hours or 218 minutes a week watching traditional television, compared to a national average of about 2.5 hours weekly. 52% of neo-souls read magazines, compared to a national average of only 22%, and 92% of neo-souls report listening to radio each week for at least 12 hours weekly, twice the national average. A significant proportion of their listenership is dedicated to Black radio stations. This point is important because the vast majority of neo-souls. It's important to understand that neo-soul females are socially conscious and value social responsibility in the companies that they deal with. 62% of neo-soul women believe embracing and supporting ethnic culture is important. 59% of them believe supporting minority-owned businesses is important. 59% of neo-soul women also expect companies to give back to the community. Perhaps these factors are a direct result of the fact that neo-soul women are 58% more likely to attend religious services regularly and 31% more likely to pray daily than the general market. Neo-souls are eager to share their opinions about products and services via social media. They are 81% more likely to show support for a favorite company or brand using social media than the national average. They are 76% more likely to share opinions by posting product ratings and reviews. This run-tell-that syndrome among neo-soul consumers qualifies them as the most adept social networkers when it comes to consumer purchases. And perhaps most importantly for African American entrepreneurs, 55% of neo-souls with incomes over $50,000 a year would purchase or support a product if it was sold or supported by a person of color or minority owned business. By the same token, only 20% of the general market with similar incomes feels the same way. So, how are neo-souls best described? They are adept smartphone users, brand loyal deal seekers, receptive to advertising, trend setting social networkers, and health and beauty conscious. They are also pioneer shoppers. They shop more but spend less, support black businesses. They're ready to buy and focused on luxury and have decades of expanding buying power. Over the next 4 decades, neo-soul consumers and the trends they set will dictate the course and development of music, fashion, television and movies, social media, health and beauty, consumer products, and urban culture and lifestyle. Ebonideation, ethnic marketing and advertising consultants. For more information, visit us at digimechanics.com. DMX, Digimechanics Advertising and Marketing Consultants.